Welcome everyone to Already Cancelled. Here we review older TV shows. The year is 2020. The name of the show is Babylon 5.
Bum, 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 bum.
That might be the worst attempt you've made.
Yeah, I wasn't really into it.
It's going to just start sounding like other random songs after a while. The name of the show is Babylon 5. Staying alive.
It's been a long road.
Oh, don't you dare. Don't. Alright, so this is season 1, episode 15. It's called Grail. So, full spoilers for the episode as always. And holy crap, the guest stars in this episode. There's 3 notable guest stars from that we'll know from various other things. 2 of them, or one of them, I should say, Tara may not know, but 2 of them you definitely do. The third one, I'll shed some light on. The 3 notable guest stars is one, that probably the most important one, David Warner, who, I mean, growing up I knew him from Supergirl and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, but have since discovered him many another thing. Notably, he's 2 different characters in 2 Star Trek movies, which is arguably where you probably know him from.
Don't let it end this way.
Yeah, that one. But he's you know, seriously, like 80s and 90s, he's all over the place. He's kind of this wiser, older guy or a scientist or whatever.
Wing Commander, we did it on the Ace. Classic.
I have purged that movie from my memory. That 90s trash that is Wing Commander. So he's here as the holy man.
I can't remember the line. The shh, there's a destroyer outside or something like that.
No, so there's a destroyer hunting us.
There's a destroyer hunting us.
But that wasn't
Be
him.
quiet in space.
Yeah,
I know it wasn't him.
That was Jurgen Prochnow, I believe, that said that.
Yeah.
I think
he
it was.
doesn't have that accent.
Yes. Yeah, now David Warner's got a very warm, kind of natural accent. Well,
He's very good.
yeah.
And you can tell he's very good because he's around someone who's really bad in this episode.
He's not a notable guest star. We'll get to him in a minute. The other 2 that are notable, though, is the villain, sort of like crime boss who's in this episode, is the toy guy from Blade Runner.
Yes, yeah.
That's basically how I describe him. I don't really know his name. And then we have the other one that you might not know is the judge in this, because we see like the court system, which I've never seen before. This petty court kind of case.
I guess they would have that on Babylon 5. It's a big station.
It's one of these things where I saw his face and I heard his voice and like I was like, wait, I know this guy. What do I know this guy from? He is Bishop Brennan from Father Ted. So for anyone who's ever watched Father Ted, an Irish sitcom about priests in Ireland, he is the bishop who comes to see them occasionally. He's essentially the equivalent in that of a Badmiral on Star Trek. He shows up and like gives them hell for not doing well enough at the little parish that they're at. But that's him. I'm like, holy shit, it's Bishop Brennan. He's on Babylon 5.
Very excited for you.
So yeah, 3 notable guest stars. It was just the hits kept coming. I was like, oh shit, yeah, that face and that face and that face, all these dudes. And then there is Jinxo, who is the not great actor. I would agree with. Out of these,
he's bad.
He's pretty rough. I do like some of the plots or some of the stuff that comes along with his character. If nothing else, just hearing about the previous Babylon stations, I think was interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I'll give it that.
There's some reservation in that agreement, but yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, it's a mixed episode. It's much better than last week's. It's like this versus TKO. This is much better. Come on.
I don't like this episode.
It's not a great episode. I will concede
TKO
this.
had some things that I could cling to.
What, seriously? You're gonna say stroke off? Gave it more points than this?
That was funny. This was not a good episode.
There's a couple of funny Londo lines.
Yeah, I mean, it has Londo in it for like 3 seconds. And Veer for 2.
Veer's there. You got Delenn. You got what's Linear? He's there.
Linear. It was good to see them. I forgot they were in the show.
Well, I liked a couple of things in this episode. I liked the idea that Delenn, like, it was funny at the start when she shows up to Sinclair and he's with Garibaldi and Garibaldi's just wolfing down food. It's like, Commander, why are you not dressed in your best? So we're going to, greet this important person. And he's like, what? I was not informed. Oh, Delen's mad at me. I best go get dressed up. And they go and they meet this guy, David Warner's character, and they're like, oh, so who are you? What, he's got a staff. He's walking around like Gandalf with his big staff. Yeah. And he's basically saying, oh, I'm a holy man. I seek something, blah, blah, blah. And he uses like 3 or 4 different names for it before he says, and then, of course, its most common name, the Holy Grail. And I appreciated the reaction of Garibaldi and Sinclair when they both just kind of like they almost start laughing. They almost like can't hold it in how silly this is. And then Delen is like, I'm surprised at your reaction. This is after he's left, obviously. I'm surprised at your reaction, Commander. And he has to explain that, well, this is kind of like a myth, and it's, the idea that someone's devoted their life to looking for it is kind of silly to us. And Delen's like, no. Like, in our culture, like, anyone who devotes themselves to something like this, in terms of a holy spiritual quest, is, like, revered. Mm-hmm. And I enjoy that bit of mythology. More for them and Barry.
I like that she was very into it, yes. Yeah. And it would make sense for a very spiritual culture to be excited to meet somebody from another culture that is as spiritual in their own right.
Yeah. And notably, she doesn't like. So I guess the culture shock of like Delen's reaction and vice versa that I think I like, at least in the setup. And I think it's elevated a little bit because it's David Warner. Cause
if it was anyone else, this would be worse than TKO. But right now, it's like they're about even for me. I think we're in a lull.
Okay. Now you've said that, and I'm thinking about it. I think I agree with that statement. I think if this was a worse actor, or well, it could be slightly worse, I suppose. But if this was like not someone who could carry it in the way that David Warner, because when David Warner starts speaking, he starts talking about how
you listen.
Yeah, you listen to him. He sounds like he's saying something important every single time he speaks, and he's talking about how his family died and he tried to go back to being an accountant or whatever he was, and nothing was fulfilling. But then this dying man, like, basically passed on his quest of finding the Holy Grail
to this cartoon character of you could tell that the lines, the way they were written, could have been said like a normal person, but for some reason he chose not to. Like, everything is just so embellished and the emphasis are in the wrong places. Like, he's a really bad actor.
You're talking about Jigsaw, you're talking about his new apprentice.
Yes.
In this episode. Yes. So Jigsaw is tied into the mob boss plot where he owes the Blade Runner dude money, and he tries to pickpocket David Warner, gets caught, but then David Warner, being like the spiritual man, takes him under his wing and tries to like learn about who he is and like give him guidance. And we hear about the fact that the reason why they call him Jigsaw is because he actually was a part of the crew to build all previous Babylon stations, and every time he went and leave for the first like 3 stations, like they blew up. And so when they got to the 4th one, he stayed there. He made a point of staying until it was finished, and then as he was leaving afterwards, he literally just turned round and the shuttle,
like a ripple effect, and which just disappeared.
To be fair, that's more than we've heard about how it disappeared. But we knew it just vanished, but the ripple effect is kind of interesting. It's a little bit different. It's like, oh, that's an extra little snippet, extra little detail there.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, the point being that if we see anything else disappear like that, we'll know it's the same. Whatever it is the same cause as Babylon 4.
If we notice the ruffled texture of space.
I also, it's a small detail, but I appreciate that they made a point of saying it isn't called the first one Babylon 1. It's like, we didn't call it Babylon 1 because we thought it would just be the one. It's the Babylon station. It's in the same way that we call World War One, but at the time no one was calling it, because no one was expecting a sequel. Everyone was just kind of like, it's the Great War,
Yeah.
I appreciate that detail. Which is one of Babylon's 5 strengths, I think, is that it has these like details like thought out. So even in an episode where the episode itself isn't that great, all the little things that are connecting to the overall mythos are usually solid enough and feel like they belong in the world. But yes, that's dude's
there wasn't
acting.
A whole lot of like even details in the ship this time that I was appreciative of. Like, there was, we got the urinals in that one scene or the one episode that was cool. We got.
You were longing for urinals in this? You're like, oh, there's not enough urinals in this
just
one.
Something, I like that we get a little bit extra of the world and where they live.
I did appreciate what, and this is almost a correction, but when Blade Runner guy tells him he owes him like 300,000 credits or whatever it is, he says that he needs it in 500 cycles, and I thought, huh. Up until now,
that sounds like a lot.
even the aliens have always said like Earth time and just said 3 Earth days or whatever. I kind of appreciated it. Yeah, it would make sense that on the station they would actually maybe go in cycles of the, because if the whole station's spinning, I mean I don't know how much it spins in an Earth day, for example, but I assume 500 cycles works out to be a few days. That's my guess. I could be wrong though.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's what it feels like.
But you're right. That's there. I mean, we did get to see the the courtroom on the ship.
Well, I like the court case.
I mean, it's not as exciting as urinals, but...
I don't know. I actually really like the court case where it's like this guy tried to sue an alien because he believes his grandfather was abducted by his grandfather. But what made it funny though was the judge was like, "Oh, it's one of these stupid cases. Why am I getting these stupid cases?" Like that made it funny to me. I don't know.
Yeah, how do you plead? Squiggly drawing of a vagina.
Can I get a translator in here? I don't know. I basically what I'm saying is that the actual main plot obviously wasn't that good. Partially because it was silly. Partially, even though I appreciate some of the intent, but partially because this Jinxo actor was not that good. But
he's the worst so far.
There's a lot of little things in the episode sprinkled around that I do like, that I do appreciate, and so. For some reason, the bad guy has a Vorlon suit that he calls Ambassador Kosh. He tries to like pretend that it is Ambassador Kosh. We never really believe that. I don't think.
Well, I don't know. We don't know because we've hardly seen Kosh.
Yeah. And
Kosh works in mysterious ways.
Yeah, it feels like an obvious misdirect though, and obviously by the end, Kosh is just like, "What? Someone had a suit look like mine? Okay." And then when Sinclair explains, "Oh, it's kind of scary to some people that you're so mysterious," he's like, "Good," and that's the end of the scene. I'm like, yeah, Kosh is a badass. But
I just ain't have time for all the little people.
But the thing in the suit is a feeder that they find that it's basically something that will take your memory, because the woman they find that's like attacked with it at the start, which is something that the bad guy is using to like threaten people. Like she's basically lost all of her human experience, and Franklin's like, nah, like she's going to have to be trained as an infant back to adulthood. So like this is a big deal. This is really sad, and like the person that she was is essentially dead and it's a new person now. And okay, that's interesting. Obviously my favorite part of this was everything with Londo, because it was
he had like 2 scenes and they were so short.
They were very short. I mean, it was 3 scenes, because there's a scene where he finds out from Sinclair and he panics and runs to his quarters. There's a scene in his quarters where David Warner shows up and asks about the Holy Grail, and he's furious at Veer because he basically says, "Oh, we'll have to charge you a lot of money to look through our records to find out if we've ever traded in a Holy Grail." And Veer's like, "No, I already did all the work, Ambassador. Here, it's on this crystal. You just like it was a very interesting challenge." And Londo's pissed because it was like, "No, we could have charged a fortune for this.
Yeah.
This could have been a big expense." The best scene though is at the end after they've like killed it, because there's a whole shootout, of course, where they have to go save, because the judge gets kidnapped by the bad guy. David Warner ends up there. Sinclair and Garibaldi all sort of swarm in and have to shoot the thing. I kind of liked how the feeder looked. I liked kind of the squid-esque alien kind of thing. It was still bad CG. It
even had black blood.
But it looked
like a squid.
I don't know. I thought it was an interesting design.
Yeah, it was fine. It was very alien, not something we've seen before. Yeah. I mean, we'd seen they had a little tentacle thing that wipes brains.
Yeah, with the suctiony cuppy sort of thing. But Londo is scared to come out, and he actually popped his head out the door when Garibaldi's trying to tell him that everything's fine, and he's like, "You sure?" But Garibaldi decides to play a little trick on him and say that if it's really quiet, that's when they maybe about to strike. And then Londo sneaks back in and leaves Veer out in the hallway, and Veer's very scared.
Because it's so quiet.
Because it's so quiet. It's not the best Londo humor ever, but I always enjoy it.
I think you just missed him.
I've missed him. He wasn't in the last episode, so it was nice to see him again. I missed Jakar though. Jakar wasn't in this one, which is a shame. And Talia's due in about 3 episodes. Don't worry, Talia's coming back. Don't worry.
Talia is dead.
Until proven
or
otherwise.
She's moved off. She said, "I've had enough of Garibaldi's weird creepiness. I'm out of here."
Yeah, I will say it's hard not to chuckle a little bit towards the end where uh, Jinxo, who we find out his real name is Thomas, because he turns around and says, "My name is Thomas," but he comes out wearing the robes,
and the staff.
and he's not dignified. He doesn't have the gravitas to walk around. Because even though I thought it was silly,
there's no reason why David Warner should have picked him.
No, even though I thought it was silly that Warner was rocking around with this staff, I thought he somehow made it look okay almost all the time.
Because he's a great actor.
Like the way he just sort of held it, because he had this way of like sort of like cupping it in his arm as he was walking around. It just gave it this like, it's really silly. You're walking around like a staff, like you're in the Bible, like you're in the olden days, but you're making it work somehow, and I respect that about you, Mr. Warner.
Yeah, it's a good look on him, not on this guy.
Not in this guy. No, this guy looks like kind of like a middle management dude who just dressed up for a toga party or something.
Severely miscast. I think they were going for like a comic relief thing, and it just really didn't work.
There's some nice messages. I like what Warner says. You know, you see this as a jinx, but how about the fact that you're incredibly lucky that you narrowly escaped death four times. Previously, because he believes he can never leave the station, but of course in this episode he does. And at the end, you know, Garibaldi and Sinclair are like, "Yeah, I'm not bothered. Yeah, we'll be fine. It's just a silly superstition."
Mm-hmm.
And then Ivanov is like, "Nah, there'll be a boom. There's always a boom. There'll be a boom tomorrow." Just saying, there's booms. She's
a realist, right?
She's a realist. It is a weird episode. I can't deny. But I will say this though. I think this episode, for as silly as some of the concepts are, as much as they don't quite click, there's more little things I like, far more than I do in the last episode. But the other big comparison to the last episode is that I feel like this at least has like an A plot that feels like an A plot, and it kind of weaves into the other plots fairly well in what it's doing. I think that's worth something.
Yeah, I suppose so. I want an episode with Delenn and some of the main characters again. Like
I'm sure
I
we're
miss
getting
these
there.
guys.
You know what? It is a bit of a lot. I know there's a big two-parter coming up in a few episodes' time that I think is quite important. That I actually didn't get to. I that's when I stopped. I stopped right before that two-parter, so we're almost at that point for me.
Yeah, I think I went a little bit further than you did, just because it was a nice show to watch while I did laundry.
High praise.
But I didn't finish season 1, but I think we're coming up close to where we left off on, huh?
Yeah, we're getting there. So it'll be kind of exciting to get to that point. But no, I don't hate the episode, but it's definitely a weak one. I would agree that between the last one and this one, we're kind of in a bit of a lull.
A little bit.
And I don't know if it necessarily improves next time. We'll find out.
Yeah, but I want something deeper.
Yeah, you know, it's fine. Like, we're in a bit of a holding pattern in the middle of the season. Episodes 18 and 19 are the big two-parter coming up. That I know is, I mean, I've not seen it, but it's meant to be kind of an important two-parter. So hopefully we get something before then. If not, you know, it's fine. Like,
okay, so the show isn't cursed because they killed off Gary Graham's character. That's what you're trying to tell me.
It was cursed for a few episodes. I mean, honestly, out of the first like 12, before we even got to like, you know, signs of importance, like there was only one or two that I thought were a bit weaker. For the most part, I was really into like what it was doing episode to episode. I agree.
The weakest part of the show has never been the plot. It's just been like some of the acting or some of the like unintentional funny stuff, or usually the guest stars are like some of the weaker stuff. But it's always adding on to the mythology of like the characters that we care about and the alien races that we care about and the history of Babylon. Yeah, we care about that stuff.
The guest stars are hit and miss because I really liked the Soul Hunter. He was great.
He was pretty funny too.
David Warner was great in this episode. Garrett Graham, of course, was
the best. Was
phenomenal in Signs of Importance. He was transcendent in the role of.
I'm so glad you know.
Of Lord Kiro. Yeah. No, I mean, it's a lighter episode. I think this is by far the shortest review I've ever had for this show, and I think I was expecting it for TKO. For somehow in TKO we managed to make fun of it long enough to get.
Well,
to...
they had Zima in there. We had to talk about Zima.
But you know, that's fine. I won't prolong this anymore. But you know, so hopefully there's like 3 other episodes coming up before we get to the big 2-parter. Hopefully we have more favorable results than. I mean, I would be okay with this level for the next few before we get to the big 2-parter. As long as we don't.
I mean, it's fine. So long as it's fun or we have some characters that we like. I think this one just was a bit of a dud.
We just can't stoop to TKO levels. This was better than TKO. That's all I'll say definitively. No, damn you.
Okay, well, it's on the list of best to worst. This one's second from last.
Okay. Yeah. David Warner. I was just curious how old David Warner is now. He is 79. So
I hope he's quarantine safe.
I hope so too. He's a gem, and he's still been doing work. He's been doing voices in animated shows.
Great voice.
Yeah, he does. Most recently, this year, in fact, he did an episode of Teen Titans Go. So,
you know, that movie was not as bad as I was thinking it was going to be.
That movie was pretty
actually
funny.
Quite good.
Yeah, that movie's actually quite funny in a way, to the point where I'm like, you know what? One day, if I'm in the mood, I might just like binge like some of the show.
It made me think, you know what? Maybe people were right about the show. I tend to dismiss them because they're talking about a cartoon for children, but maybe there is something in there.
After watching it, I'm basically, this is like Teen Titans meets It's Always Sunny. It's essentially what the premise is.
Yeah, they were very unlikable. I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. So,
anyway.
Fair play. But that is the episode of Babylon 5. So we'll be back next week. So look forward to that. You can like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show financially, Tara, where can they do that? What deck? Red what? Red 59.
Is that what our tier programs are going to be called now? You can head on over to our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/mildfuzztv. And donating as low as $1 per month will get you access to bonus episodes of other shows we do, including the ACE, the Atomic Cinema Experiment, which is our science fiction movie review show. And if you donate $5 per month, you will get access to these Babylon 5 reviews 1 week early. Some other shows you get early, and some shows you get a day early. So please head on over and check it out. Thank you.
Yes, and David Warner. I was trying to think of those. I mean, he's been in a bunch of stuff I've seen. Including recently, he was in Extreme Man, whatever. But the one that I was really trying to think of that I've since discovered, he's Sydney's lecturer in Stream 2. That's what it is. Yes.
Very, very. I'm glad he's had such a lustrous career.
Me too. Do you know what the sad part is? He's kind of like this actor who gets a lot of roles, but never in anything where he's like a prominent star in a big thing. Like he's a very.
Who does that sound like?
Very dependent. He's just saying he's a Gary Graham. Sorry. Well, Garrett Graham was never in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, so.
That's true.
Yeah.
But he was in a lot of twos.
Yeah, he was in a lot of twos.
A lot of Child's Play 2, Philadelphia Experiment 2, Chud 2, Bud the Chud.
Yes, and then Police Academy 6.
Police Academy 6.
Which is a multiple of 2. So there you go. All right, that's us. Thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Yes, keep watching Babylon 5. Just don't give away the old home world. Sell it out for free. All right, Veer?